Hello, and welcome to the After Bedtime podcast. I am your host, HP Burrito. And on tonight's episode, more Fairness Doctrine, please. Pretty much what I want to talk about is that the Fairness Doctrine, which was conceived way back when, in 1959, Congress amended the Communications Act of 1934 to formalize the Fairness Doctrine into law, and they rewrote 315A to read, quote, "A broadcast license shall afford reasonable opportunity for discussion of conflicting views on matters of public importance," end quote. And basically, in layman's terms, what it says is that a broadcast company, whether it be radio or TV, must give reasonable chance for each side of a topic to voice their opinions on whatever the topic is of public importance. And the Fairness Doctrine had two main components. It was A, it required that each broadcast licensee carry some coverage of controversial issues of public importance, and B, it required a quote-unquote reasonable balance in the coverage of those issues in a station's overall programming. Now, throughout the decades, the Supreme Court has addressed the Fairness Doctrine many times. Between 1969 and 1987, saying they've gone back and forth about the Fairness Doctrine, changing this word, changing this meaning, just trying to tweak it to make it sound right. But in June of 1987, Congress attempted to write the Fairness Doctrine into law, but President Reagan vetoed the legislation. And back in 1991, Congress tried once again, but at the time, President Bush Sr. vetoed it. So now we don't have the Fairness Doctrine enacted anymore. So now, broadcasters can choose to give one side more coverage than the other side, or to completely ignore one side altogether. And that's how we've gotten to where we're at today with the way mainstream media is, so politicized. They're either this way or that way. They're either right or left, and it's ridiculous. But it all really started back then in the late 80s and early 90s when they removed the Fairness Doctrine. And the first example that I saw and I found is of the 1992 elections, when Bill Clinton won and became the president of the United States back in 1992. And before he was even in the running for the primaries, he had to go through the Democratic race. And there was 5 primary candidates for the Democratic primaries. And the one guy you might not have heard from was Larry Ingram. He was the 5th Democratic candidate that the media left out. And I've got proof of this, of how they left him out, because I was, again, going through aftermath.media, going through the library. I stumbled upon this documentary called Fake News Exposed Volume 1, the 80s and 90s. And it was not that long. I think it was like an hour and a half, 90 minutes, somewhere around there. But it was really interesting. The whole documentary was of satellite feed footage that it was over 500 hours, he said, that he went through and found live satellite feeds back before they started censoring them. And it's funny because as a kid, I used to have one of those big, huge satellite dishes, and you can move the satellite dish to different satellites and go through the channels of that satellite to see what they carry. So I kind of knew what he was talking about. And so watching the documentary, I just it was very interesting to me to see live shots. But one thing that I saw was, again, this whole Larry Ingram thing. And I borrowed a little bit of the video. It started off with a news report. But I want to play it here for you guys. I want you to watch it. It's like 5 minutes of this documentary. But it's talking about Larry Ingram and how the media excluded him from the Democratic primaries, and how he was probably the most qualified candidate to deal with the issues that they were talking about, but they didn't give him enough time or any time at all to actually talk on TV. So let's go to the clip and watch the part of this documentary. I definitely would recommend anyone to watch this documentary. I don't know if you can find it online. I found it on aftermath.media, as I usually find most things that I want to talk about.
Amid continuing allegations of tabloid reports pointing to extramarital affairs, Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton is this noon campaigning across the South.
Hello, Mike. Everybody in America who's had problems in their marriage, who either wound up divorced or who got back together, votes for me. I'm a shoo-in. Can you hear me? I figure if everybody in Maryland who's ever had trouble in their marriage and they're still together, or who's ever been divorced, votes for me, I'm a shoo-in. Hello? And you know, if every American couple who's either been divorced or had problems and stayed married votes for me, I'm a shoo-in for re-election. I think the American people are smarter than the pundits.
Before Clinton was shooed into office, he had to compete against a host of other Democratic candidates. The media focused on 4 of these candidates, but Larry Agron was a 5th candidate the press did not report on.
There's no makeup here?
During the 1992 U.S. Conference of Mayors, the New York Times reported that, quote, dozens of mayors seem to agree on one thing. The single candidate who truly understands urban needs is Larry Agron, unquote.
They promised to bring this stuff over.
None of the networks mentioned Agron's presence at the convention.
How about if I run over that Super Saver?
One of Agron's staff had to run over to the Super Saver and buy some makeup because the network had broken its promise to provide it. This was typical of the media's treatment of Agron. When he appeared at this Democratic candidates forum, this Associated Press photo simply cropped Agron out of the frame. During the New Hampshire primary, the TV news reported the polling numbers of the top 5 Democratic candidates: Brown, Clinton, Harkin, Kerry, and Tsongas. When Agron moved into a 3-way tie with Harkin and Brown with 2% of the vote, most of the TV news didn't mention Agron. The day Bill Clinton captured what may have been the most valuable airtime of the entire election, as he spoke to 50 million viewers about his alleged affair, was the same day that a poll showed Agron's support at 4%. He had passed Brown and was the 5th leading candidate. When ABC's Sunday Evening News reported this poll, they simply deleted Agron entirely by not reporting his candidacy. During the New Hampshire primary, Agron's only live commercial TV appearance was through this satellite feed to ABC's Nightline. But the Nightline program wasn't directly about the election. When Agron complained to news executives about his lack of coverage, he was told he had not earned the right to media exposure because he had not received enough media exposure.
And on stage, the 5 major contenders for the Democratic presidential nomination.
Although Agron was on the ballot in nearly half the country, he was barred from most televised debates, including this one sponsored by the League of Women Voters. He couldn't meet one of the League's main criteria, which was, quote, recognition by the national media as a candidate meriting media attention, unquote.
Good evening and welcome to the Democratic presidential candidates debate on urban America.
Agron wanted to debate on urban America, calling for a 50% cut in defense spending and the reinvestment of some of that money into America's decaying cities.
We are going to be coming to you, live from Lehman College, and you'll hear a bit of a disturbance in the background, but we'll go on with that in any case.
The disturbance is Larry Agron asking to be included in the debate so that he can explain his plans for defense cuts and urban revitalization.
Transfer of President Ferdinand Ferrer, and Mr. President, I suggest you wait for just a moment till the man is quieted or chooses to quiet down. All right, Mr. Ferrer.
Agron was quickly arrested. His court date fell on the first day of the Democratic National Convention.
During this campaign, but very little said about the problems facing America's cities. Tonight, we'll change all that.
Without media exposure and the debates, Agron couldn't quickly receive federal campaign funds, and his candidacy lost momentum.
You look all right on camera.
What's that?
You look all right. There's no hot spots. So.
Really? Okay. I guess I got a mustache that shows through here. Okay, why don't you go get some stuff, Mike? Oh, yeah. There we go. Campaign funds.
The Democratic Party refused to include Agron in the debates or speak to the networks on his behalf. Agron talked about his exclusion, saying, "I've challenged my own party for its continuing complicity in Cold War thinking, Cold War rhetoric, and Cold War budgets."
To restore order right now, there are 3,000 National Guardsmen on duty in the city of Los Angeles.
Yeah, the mainstream media did Larry Ingram dirty back in 92, guys. And 30 years later, almost, it has not gotten better. Matter of fact, we are so much worse off now, 30 years later, than then. Because, I mean, the mainstream media only puts on who they want to put on. Their experts, their people who they approve of. You don't really have an opposing view anymore. And if you do see somebody there for an opposing view, they're treated harshly and barely given any equal time to speak and give their side. There's no discord anymore. There's no, letting people have their own agency and choosing what they want to do for themselves. But there is a little light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, I in doing my research, I found H.R. 4401, Restore the Fairness Doctrine Act of 2019. And I could not believe that someone's actually trying to bring back the Fairness Doctrine. They're trying to reinstitute it, and I am for this, guys. I am for this. And the sponsor is representative from Hawaii, Miss Tusi Gabbard. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but if you go to www.govtrack.us, it's a website from the government that helps track all these bills, and on the website it gives you an opportunity to call or write your congressperson, and it helps you get to the right spot so you can contact your person as once you put in the right information. So that's pretty cool, and I recommend we all do this. We all write our congressmen and tell them that we want the Fairness Doctrine back reenacted. We need to get this back, as I implore you guys, we need to get this back. Anyway, that's what I got tonight. Thanks for watching. Like the video if you liked it. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of content. We're here to speak our opinion and have a fight in the comment section below. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time after bedtime. Good night, everybody.